Thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2. It's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let's jump right in. So yesterday, training camp started for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt, and a couple of the players had brief press conferences or answered questions. And, the typical media questions that were asked, some of them I could care less for or didn't like, but I felt the media did a poor job of asking the important questions. For instance, Jono Smith. He's been in the National Football League since 2017. And in 2023, he had his first decent year with 50 receptions for 582 yards, 3 touchdowns. But prior to that, his first his first 7 years in the league, 18 receptions, 20 receptions, 35 receptions, 41 receptions, 28 receptions, 27 receptions. In 2023, he has 50. In 2024, he has 88 receptions. Now, I think that's a little concerning. In 2024, he played 17 games, 88 receptions, 111 targets, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns. And I understand Arthur Smith is somewhat in love with this guy. Prior to the 2023 season, there wasn't a lot of tape on Jono Smith. So he finally has one decent season. It's just a little concerning to me that Jono Smith didn't have a decent season until his 7th year. And then his 8th year, he got somewhat significantly better. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, on top of that, they gave him a $4 million raise. But the bottom line is, he got a $4 million raise. I was really surprised that nobody in the media asked Coach Tomlin, like, Mike, is this a little concerning to you that Jono Smith hasn't really produced much in his first 6 or 7 years of football? I mean, it's a legitimate question. Obviously not, because the Pittsburgh Steelers signed him and gave him big-time money. But I think the question should have been asked. And then when they asked Coach Tomlin about Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay, you could tell Coach Tomlin was really excited. He's super into these guys. He really believes in their ability. But I felt there was a question that was left out that really should have been asked about Jalen Ramsey. But the question that really needed to be asked was, Coach Tomlin, if he's such a phenomenal player, why does he keep getting traded? And from all reports, every single team that Jalen Ramsey played for, he left on bad terms. Nothing but a problem inside the locker room. And I remember when it all started in Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars were starting to rebound. They were starting to be a prominent team. They were starting to do well, to be a real strong presence on defense. And they were led by Jalen Ramsey. And the owner of the Jaguars wanted to give Jalen Ramsey big-time money. And they had some type of disagreement. And it was all downhill from there. Jalen Ramsey has showed this type of behavior every step of the way. I don't understand why Coach Tomlin always thinks that he could fix players like Jalen Ramsey. Of course, Jalen Ramsey's going to show up his first day of camp and say all the right things. All these guys do. They all say the right things in the beginning. I give it about 4 to 6 months before the real Jalen Ramsey starts to show the Pittsburgh Steelers in the locker room, the media, who he truly is. I don't anticipate Jalen Ramsey changing his attitude overnight. And I felt that question should have been asked also. Coach Tomlin, are you worried about Jalen Ramsey? He has a history of not being able to function well in locker rooms. It always ends bad. The Pittsburgh Steelers are known for bringing these types of players in, and it never ends well. So why bring Jalen Ramsey in? And I know Coach Tomlin, Omar Khan are going to say, oh, we got better. We didn't trade Minkah because he couldn't play anymore. We added, they come up with some type of politically correct wording, however they wanted to word it. They didn't want to say they traded Minkah away for any negative reasons. They just said our team got better by bringing these 2 players in. And I highly disagree with that opinion. I don't agree with that opinion. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers got better by getting rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick for these 2 players. I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers should have tried to develop Darnell Washington even more. From all accounts, all reports, He showed up. He looks incredible. You can't blame Darnell Washington if he hasn't put up big numbers yet when he's the second tight end in the offense and you have Russell Wilson at quarterback. So how can you blame Darnell Washington? You can't. I think that Darnell Washington's going to have the best year of his career this year if he gets on the field with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. I keep going back to, I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get gashed for big plays on the back end. It's widely known that quarterbacks were afraid to throw the ball at Minkah Fitzpatrick's area. Juan Thornhill gets interviewed yesterday at Latrobe, and he comes out and he says, the media and a lot of insiders are saying that Minkah Fitzpatrick had a down year. And I don't think that he had a down year, meaning Juan Thornhill said this. He said, quarterbacks weren't throwing the ball Minkah's way. And if they're not throwing the ball your way, you can't get interceptions. And then Juan Thornhill went on to say, they were saying the same things about me. And I made a lot of plays for the Cleveland Browns. And a lot of times the quarterbacks were avoiding me, so I wasn't making interceptions. And the same rumors and lies were being said about me. Now, hopefully it works out. Hopefully Juan Thornhill can play. Do I think he's better than Minkah Fitzpatrick? I highly doubt it. But he seems to understand the situation also because he went through it. Now, I'm just Juan Thornhill, when you see him get interviewed, he talks with a lot of confidence. And I'm hoping he plays with a lot of confidence because if he doesn't play, well, I already feel that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get gashed for big plays on the back end. That's my opinion. I think you're going to see 6 to 7 plays this year that are going to be huge bombs that come at the worst possible times for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but I feel now that the Pittsburgh Steelers got rid of Minkah Fitzpatrick, the defense is more susceptible to giving up big plays, and that's what I think is going to happen. I felt that Coach Tomlin should have been asked about Juan Thornhill, if he thinks he has the ability, the same type of ability that Minkah Fitzpatrick does. I know we're hearing all types of rumors about Jalen Ramsey playing safety or Darius Slay. I mean, Darius Slay to me is an outside corner along with Joey Porter Jr., and I see Jalen Ramsey as a nickel or slot corner at the line of scrimmage. I don't see him as the free safety. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. But if you have Juan Thornhill back there, we all know that Coach Tomlin is going to say, no, I believe in every guy on the roster. He's going to give you one of those answers because that's what he's supposed to say. What else is he going to say? No, I think the guy's going to suck. But I think it's your job as the media to ask these legitimate questions to try to get a feel if Coach Tomlin is telling the truth and go from there. So then TJ Watt gets up there for his press conference to answer questions. And the media right away, they start with his money. They want money, 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 money. Don't ask about another man's money. We all know what the market is in the NFL. If you really sit there and logically think about it, yeah, it's an astronomical amount of money, but that's the market. It's really not a big deal. The contract is not a big deal. It's not. Is TJ grateful for the contract? Absolutely. Does he appreciate it? Yes, he does. Does he want to be a Steeler? Yes, he does. But to ask questions and talk about the man's money, I really think you're out of bounds. At one point, one of the reporters says, I was reading X. He said, he better never ask me, meaning TJ, to pull out my wallet again when we go to dinner. How did you feel about that? Like, I don't see. Are you asking him if he's mad about it? He kind of like makes a face like what do you want the guy to say? He's my brother. Yeah, I'm going to be mad. TJ says, well, he's paid for me a lot of times. But it's really a dumb question. I know the media has to ask questions, obviously, to make stories and write things. Not one question football related. Hey, can you tell us about your workout? Did you get stronger? Did you work on pass rush moves? Have you timed yourself in the 10-yard dash? Have you timed yourself in the 40-yard dash? Have you chained together more moves? Who have you worked with your pass rushing? Like hardly anything football related. All about money and the emotional part of the contract. I thought it was poorly done by the Pittsburgh media. Your job is to report football. Do you want people to ask about your money? Listen, we get it. It's public knowledge. He got a huge deal. We all understand that. But if you give yourself a timeout, are you really surprised he got the money? No. Even if it came in a little bit less, would you? TJ Watt, for the most part, was always going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He was always going to get big time money. Whether he got 25 million, 30 million, 41 million, honestly, what the hell is the difference? I want to know about TJ Watt, the player. Hey, TJ, did you change your diet? Because he did, to me, he looked slimmer. TJ definitely looked slimmer to me. But he said at the press conference, oh, no, I'm the same weight. Then you seen him in a picture of the day before, and his arms look big, like he looked thicker, but yesterday, for some reason, he looked slim. That's just my observation. If you're a reporter in the room, you should be asking him every step of the way about his offseason, about his preparation. You know, again, who he worked out with, where, why, did he change his diet? Did he do anything different? Did he work with any other pass rushers around the league? In-depth football stuff. You're football reporters. You're not accountants or, bank people. Some of the questions were just whatever. I mean, that's what I expect. It's training camp. But Coach Tomlin, he should have been asked a lot tougher questions than the questions that he was asked. I really believe that Jalen Ramsey's going to melt down. I give it 6 months or less. It's going to go bad. It always does. I'm not buying it. Just watching him in the interviews, he's already kind of slightly annoyed. This is a different media market in Pittsburgh. The players, they love the team. The fans love the team. Everybody loves the team. The media can be kind of intense sometimes. I'm not saying it's not intense other places. But damn, you had all these other stops with all these other teams. At one point, one of the media members asked Jalen Ramsey about his versatility. You need to watch the video and tell me what you think, if he was annoyed, if he wasn't annoyed. But I just have a feeling that with Jalen Ramsey, just like every other team, I don't think he's going to be fixable. I don't understand why Coach Tomlin always thinks that he can fix these types of players. And somebody should ask Coach Tomlin straight out. With everything that Minkah Fitzpatrick brought in the locker room, his leading by example, his work ethic, showing up, keeping his mouth shut, do you feel that you lost any value in the locker room by trading Minkah Fitzpatrick for a guy in Jalen Ramsey who's known to be a locker room problem? I'm sorry, but these are legitimate questions. We'll just have to wait and see. Isaac Seumalo's injury isn't serious, Jerry Dulac says. All players reported to St. Vincent College, but there was one surprise name on the non-football injury NFI list. Offensive guard Isaac Seumalo was added to the list with what Mike Tomlin described as a soft tissue injury, according to Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac. That isn't viewed as a serious injury. Dulac was asked if Seumalo's injury is serious. No, he replied in his weekly PG Steelers chat. I don't think that Isaac's injury is anything serious at all. He had a rough year last year with the pectoral tear, but he'll be back and be better than ever. He's a staple of the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everything's going to be all right. I also like that TJ Watt, he told the reporters yesterday, he said, I'm not here to talk about last year or the 299 rushing yards that we gave up in the playoffs. The past is the past. I'm ready to move on. We got a new group. I'm excited. We're going to have wings tonight, at the local restaurant that they all go to. And I like that TJ Watt said that because the season ended last year with so much negativity. It was just mind blowing. So I'm glad that TJ Watt just wants to put the period on that and just talk about 2025. And that's what I'm going to do for now on also. I'm moving on. Obviously, I'm still not happy that Minkah Fitzpatrick got traded. I want the best for Juan Thornhill. I'm all about the black and gold, regardless of who they bring in to play for them. Of course, I love certain players, and I'm always going to want certain players to be Steelers for life, but that's not the nature of the business. And I'm going to root and cheer for the guys that we have, and I'm just praying that we're Super Bowl bound with Aaron Rodgers. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2.